Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. We're gonna go over the Big Bang Theory poster today. Hi, I started with Leonard Hofstadter. Or that's his character name in the Big Bang Theory, at least I don't know his real name. So we're gonna go over his hair first, and go over the most important features of his face, like his eyes, and his eyeball, and his eyebrow. So we're gonna go over all the important things, and now I'm going over the lips and the nose. Leonard has a pretty simple face, so it was pretty easy to illustrate. And the fact that he has doesn't have much expression on his face right now, opened his mouth, except that he opened his mouth. It's pretty simple face, so it's easy to do. And I go over his glasses, and the glasses was I tried something where I took the pen tool and I colored it white and I made the opacity 0, which obviously didn't work. So I went over it again and I just used the eraser tool instead, which turned out much better. As you can see, I did this entire face. Now I go over the shading. This is the first time in my YouTube channel that I have used posterization to find all the shading and everything, which has made this like illustration so much better. And I just go over the different shades and I find the perfect color to match that shade. So I'm just going over it right now. I don't know about you guys, but this show is my favorite show, and it's because it's so funny, and it's something that you can actually learn from. They share so many good facts in the show that you actually learn something on while you're watching it. So it isn't a total waste of time unless you're just watching it for entertainment. Like, who's watching anything for entertainment nowadays, right? Right now, I'll go over to Raj, and he has a complicated expression. His lips are pretty tough to do, as you can see. Wow, when I'm doing the lips, it turned out kind of weird because he had this like this folded lip kind of expression. It wasn't too tough, but it was harder than Leonard's at least. The one mistake I did with Raj was I made his skin color too dark, and because of that, any shading I did after that turned out a little bit darker, and it's harder to recognize it. So I just like find the best skin color for Raj so that the shade actually shows up. Okay, and Raj had like Raj had a pretty interesting character in the Big Bang Theory. He was an astrophysicist. If you watch the show, you'd know it. The thing is, at one point he started working for Sheldon, and after that, I don't know when he stopped working, but that was just the last of it. He worked for Sheldon, and then somehow he just left Sheldon. All right, now we're going over to Penny. Penny was pretty easy. She had like the smallest eyes compared to the others. Like the eyeball was really small, and yeah, Penny worked at the in the beginning of the show. She worked at the cheesecake factory, but eventually she like moved over to the pharmaceutical business and actually started making more money. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, spoiler alert. um, I go back to Raj because I forgot to do the textures on his lip, so I went back and I did that over again. On Raj, actually, the shades, I should have made it a little bit less opaque because right now it was too obvious to look at all the shapes of the shading, which I should have reduced, but I didn't. So, oops. So now I'm just doing the shades of Penny, and I tried to do the hair too, but the hair was I don't know how to do the hair yet, so I'm still practicing. But hair is pretty hard to do. Oh, if you guys can see, what I'm doing is when I do the shading, I usually have like a blue color, black color, and then I change it over. The color when I do the when I use the pen tool is just so that I have a reference to what skin color goes when I put it on the skin. If that makes any sense. If it doesn't, then forget I ever said that. Right? Now I go over Sheldon. Sheldon's pretty easy, but he had like the biggest eyeballs. Like it's so funny. And his ears were also kind of funny. He had like the ears from like Spock, which I didn't notice when I was watching the show. And oh yeah, Penny has shading on her neck, and I did her neck, but you guys didn't see that. It's because I may have accidentally forgot to record it. Yeah, but that's okay. So Sheldon had a pretty rectangular face, which he was pretty easy to do because he had a very simple complexion on his face. Sheldon is a very interesting character in Big Bang Theory too. I mean, he's so smart, yet he tries to be non-human, tries to be more like a robot. But in the end, he finally realizes that you know human is better. Not better per se, but he just enjoys it and actually found the beauty of being human. So now I move on to Amy. Amy was the toughest to do in my opinion. It was the lips, the angle at which is looking at, it was much harder to do. But I made her hair clip. As you can see, the lips is like a really weird shape, and I fixed it in the end, but you just don't see it. The lip was kind of weird. It was bugging me out, so I changed it later. Okay. Oh yeah, I forgot to do Sheldon's neck. Of course, I forgot to do Sheldon's neck and the shades, so I just go over and do it. And if you can, guys can see, I made every single character in a different layer so that we I can adjust them without being able to without having confusion to which layer I'm on. So I do it on each character as its own layer. Like if you guys can see on the right, this is the Amy layer because she's Amy. So I go over the glasses. Her glasses didn't come out as good as Leonard. I could have done it all over again, but I didn't. Instead, I just tried to fix the broken glass. It's not broken. It's just really bad. See, if you guys can see, I made it white. The shading, just so it's like a marker for me to put in the correct shading to it. Just it's just a substitute for the real color I'm going to do. Okay, Amy was Amy was a little. She was like a Sheldon when she first got on the show, and then she became a little bit more human per se, but faster than Sheldon before. Sheldon took like the entire show to become more human, while Amy took like one season. Um, and I move on to Howard. Howard was really simple. I mean, his face is literally a triangle. I mean, how hard could it be, right? And then I move on and I do his eyes. Howard, I never thought this small guy could even go to space, but he did, which was amazing. And, even though it was not in real life, it was still an accomplishment in the show itself, so good for him. I'm talking fictional, okay? And I go into the final touches on the eye, with the iris of the eye and like the little highlights, little white highlights at the top. And I go over that. This is like the final part I'm gonna do. If you guys could saw that Sheldon had the biggest eyes. Okay, so here's the before and after, just so you guys have a comparison. I tried to do the clothes, but it just didn't work out because I don't know how to do the clothes. The clothes have so much, like, how do you say it? So much shading and everything. It was pretty hard to do. Anyway, I'll just leave it at that. Alright, if you guys mind subscribing and liking, it will be much appreciated. Please do. And I'll see you next time.